I discovered he was cheating on me, but what broke me the most wasn't the message. It was realizing that I had felt it for months and chose to ignore it. Today I'm going to read the letter of a subscriber who discovered her husband's infidelity. But the most devastating part wasn't the betrayal, it was everything that happened afterward. If your intuition has ever screamed something at you, stay. Hi, I always thought I would never be that woman. The one who checks phones, the one who suspects, the one who doubts. I was always confident, or at least that's what I believed. It all started with small changes. They weren't obvious, but they were enough to make me uncomfortable. He stopped looking at me when I spoke. He was more distracted. He smiled at his phone, but with me he was serious. He guarded his screen in subtle ways. He started going to bed later than usual. Nothing dramatic. Nothing I could point at and say, this is proof. Just a shift, a temperature change in the room. I started to feel like I was competing with something invisible, an energy, a distance, a version of him that no longer felt fully mine. I asked him several times if something was wrong. Always the same answer. You're overreacting. You're imagining things. You're too sensitive. And I started to believe maybe I was. That I was being insecure. That it was stress. That it was my imagination. I apologized for asking. I shrank my doubts. I silenced my instincts. But my body knew. My stomach tightened when his phone buzzed. My chest felt heavy when he turned away from me in bed. My intuition was not loud. It was steady. And that was the first thing I ignored. The night I found out wasn't planned. It wasn't a mission. It wasn't a strategy. It was a vibration. A message that came in while he was sleeping beside me. The room was dark, quiet. The kind of quiet that feels safe. The name wasn't saved, but the message said, I miss you since yesterday. Simple, soft, intimate. I felt a cold wave run through my body. My hands started shaking. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. I could have put the phone down. I could have pretended I didn't see it. I could have chosen ignorance again. But something inside me was tired of pretending. So I opened it. And there it was. Weeks of conversations, photos, voice notes, plans, jokes, memories, intimacy. It wasn't something recent. It wasn't a one-night mistake. It wasn't confusion. It was a parallel story, a secret life happening while I was cooking dinner, folding laundry, asking about his day. While I was organizing our home, he was organizing dates with another woman. While I was thinking about family vacations, he was thinking about hotel rooms with her. And the cruelest part, he was telling her things he hadn't told me in years. You're incredible. You make me feel alive. I've never felt this understood. Words that once belonged to us. I stared at the screen without breathing. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I went numb. It felt like my reality split in two. The life I thought I had, and the life that was actually happening. The next day I confronted him. My voice was calm. Too calm. He denied everything. He laughed nervously. He said they were jokes. That it wasn't serious. That I was misinterpreting things. Until I showed him the screenshots. Until there was no space left for denial. Then he cried. He hugged me. He fell apart. He asked for forgiveness. He said it was a mistake. That he never thought it would go that far. That he loved me. That he didn't want to lose me. And I looked at him wondering, if you love me, how could you divide your heart like that? How do you kiss me and text her? How do you hold my hand and plan with someone else. The worst part was hearing, it didn't mean anything. Because if it didn't mean anything, why risk everything? Why risk our history? Why risk our children? Why risk my sanity? After discovering it, I thought the worst was over. I thought the truth would bring clarity. But no. The worst began when I stayed. Because staying meant living with the images in my head. I compared myself to her. I asked myself what she had that I didn't. Was she younger? More exciting? Less tired? Less demanding? I looked in the mirror, searching for flaws. I analyzed my body, my face, my voice, my energy. I started checking his phone, even after he promised to change. Not because I wanted to control him, but because I no longer trusted my own perception. I lived on alert. Every notification froze me. Every time he went out gave me anxiety. Every time he smiled at his phone triggered something inside me. I lost my peace. I lost my trust. But above all, I lost myself. I became someone hyper-aware, someone suspicious, someone who read between lines that weren't even there, insecure, anxious, and that hurt more than the betrayal, because I felt like he had changed me, like the confident woman I used to be no longer existed.
Everyone tells me if he cheated, leave. But no one talks about how hard it is to leave. No one talks about the shared memories, the routines, the inside jokes, the family dinners, years together, children, mortgage, history, fear, the fear of starting over, the fear of regretting the decision, the fear of breaking my family. It's not that easy to break everything. And it's not that easy to rebuild either. Because rebuilding requires two people. And I don't know if he's willing to truly rebuild or just afraid to lose comfort. I'm trapped between two pains. The pain of staying and constantly remembering, and the pain of leaving and grieving everything.
And I don't know which one weighs more. There's something I want you to listen to carefully. Infidelity doesn't just break the relationship. It breaks your sense of reality. It fractures trust, not only in the other person, but in yourself. Because you start asking, how didn't I see this? Was I blind? Did I ignore the signs? Was I naive? And that self-doubt can be more corrosive than the betrayal itself. Infidelity rewrites your past. Moments that once felt happy now feel suspicious. Memories feel contaminated. You question whether what you lived was real. You ask, since when? Was he happy with me? Was he pretending? Did he look at her while lying next to me? And that's where the real wound begins. Not in the cheating, but in the constant doubt, in the mental replay, in the need for reassurance that never fully satisfies. And I want to say something clearly. When someone cheats, it's not because they found something better. It's because they chose not to face something. Maybe discomfort, maybe boredom, maybe their own emptiness. But cheating is a decision, and many women turn that decision into a sentence against their own worth. They think, I wasn't enough. But worth is not lost because someone betrays you. What is lost is the illusion of certainty. And rebuilding after that requires something enormous: truth, total transparency, real accountability, long-term consistency, not temporary tears, not emotional speeches, not promises whispered in fear, actions, repeated actions. Over time, I want you to tell me in the comments, would you forgive infidelity? What would it take? Can you love the same way afterward? Or does something permanently shift? Does trust ever return to 100%? Or does it become a new version of trust? And something even stronger. If you no longer feel safe, if you no longer feel calm, if you no longer feel chosen, are you really in a relationship? Or just in an arrangement? I'm reading you. Because this topic divides people. and hearing real experiences can help many who feel alone in this. To the woman who wrote this letter, you are not weak for feeling broken. You are not dramatic for doubting.
You are not crazy for sensing something was wrong. But you are not obligated to stay broken either. The betrayal was his decision. What you do now is your decision, and that is in your hands. Staying is a choice. Leaving is a choice. Healing is a choice. And whatever you choose yourself in the process. If this story resonated with you, subscribe. Here we talk about what hurts, but also about how to rise again. See you in the next video.